But let's bring in the professor. I don't know if he was involved. Were you watching NBA action last night, Professor?
Okay, Lubie and I have had this discussion. This whole South Florida thing that is deeply ingrained, we're like supposed to have these vicious, hated rivalries with the New York teams, is the most pointless freaking thing in the history of sports rivalries. What's the point of hating the New York Jets? It's like hating the Jerry's kids. Like, they're this super loser franchise that haven't done anything since Joe Namath was there. You want to hate the Yankees? Fine. There's no point in hating it. The Knicks have had like one moment ever, and it was in, 1971?
73, yeah.
73, literally 52 years ago. Come on, they had Ewing for 20 years, and they sucked the whole time. The one time they got into the finals, they got smoked by a Houston team that was literally like Hakeem Olajuwon and 4 guys from the YMCA. Like, want to hate the Patriots? I mean, that's like hating Russia. Like, you should. If you want to hate the Celtics, yeah, they've got like 97,000 banners. Jason Tatum's probably the most annoying personality in the history of the NBA, just because he wants to be the star that he's not so badly. It's just like you could smell the pick-me coming off of Jason Tatum. You want to hate those teams? Cool, go ahead and hate those teams. But like this weird thing in South Florida where our rivals or whatever team is from New York is so freaking pointless.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Appeal Yourself Off the Map Monday here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, one Mike Lubitz, hopefully coming off a sensational weekend as you were a sports fan. Of course, there was a tremendous saturation of all kinds of exciting stuff, especially right here in town where we originate the program from. That is South Florida. The Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs last night staged another. If a 2-0 game in hockey can be overwhelmingly exciting, that was every bit of it last night. Lubie, how are you? How was the weekend? And how much of this stuff were you, like me, gargling with Visine after watching? Yep. Some of the games you could turn away from because there were some massive blowouts also in the NBA. But nonetheless, the hockey action between Toronto and the Florida Panthers couldn't be any more airtight as you had 3 one-goal games. One on Friday night decided in overtime in the Panthers' favor, kept them in the series, you would have to think. And then last night, your man Bobrovsky, it's good bad Bob and bad Bob, as you've been saying. And he came up big, and this guy Wall was, I mean, you could have just put an A in there instead of the O. I mean, he made some spectacular saves to keep Toronto alive. So you have Edmonton up 2-1, Colorado up 2-1. Edmonton's playing Las Vegas, Colorado up 2-1 over Washington. The Stars went up 2-1 over Winnipeg, the President's Trophy winners. And the Cats in Toronto in a dead heat at 2-2. How are you? What did you think about this action last night?
First, happy Mother's Day to one and all.
Very nice mention there.
Hope everyone had a great Mother's Day. It was at one point. Look, I've said it. I don't know what it is, but 20 shot. I mean, at the end they did the barrage thing, so it got up to 22. But the shots for the Maple Leafs stayed under 20, and there's Bobrovsky. We've said it. Like if you keep action away from him for the most part, and I get it, this would probably be any goalie, but he can be spectacular. Like he was fantastic last night, and it wasn't all gimmies. There was the one where they had the left side, the right side, they put a shot on him, and then he had to fly across the net. So I think it was on the left side, and then he had to fly across to the right, and it literally was all him. The net was open, and he caught the puck out of thin air, and that was when it was 1-0. And the Panthers dominated last. I mean, the Panthers literally had like a 30-shot advantage, and there were real opportunities. They were all over the ice. They didn't let the Maple Leafs work at all until really the end of the game, and it was a 1-0 game all game. And that's what's annoying about hockey is that's what's great about it, but it's also annoying when your team's the team up. It's like you could dominate and still find a way to lose. So I literally yelled in the middle of the third period. I'm like, did Waugh take over his body? Like Wall is a freaking bat. He's outplayed Bobrovsky this entire series. Like he's the backup. I don't know why. Someone better sign this guy. Like the Panthers have dominated this series by shots in pretty much every game and action. And it's it's time. I'm sorry, what am I talking about? It was 2-2. Like it was impressive to see this guy play the way he's played. It's nice to have the Panthers get back in this series and even it up. And the NBA action is a little disappointing. I mean, the Thunder Nuggets are being the series we thought they would be. The rest of the series, I don't know. Look, the Knicks are lucky they got the 2 games because this series may be over. I mean, the Celtics really have dominated all but like 2 half quarters. Like, that's really it. If you look at when we do the quarter game, which we know it's stupid because it's a 2-1 Knicks lead, and it is a 2-1 Knicks lead, and I think they're going to get game 4 just because they're not going to lose 2 in the Garden. But the Celtics have actually outplayed them. You know, like when you look at the Cavs series, I don't know what. Like, I was so wrong about the Cavs. I have to admit it wholeheartedly. Like, I really thought they could take out the Celtics. I thought they'd probably lose to the Thunder, but it'd be a war. The Pacers are a nice team. They're not a great team. And the fact that even when the Cavs had their players in there, the Pacers did whatever they want. Like, that game yesterday was utterly ridiculous.
Wow.
And it actually lays more claim to, I wonder what they would have done with JB Bickerstaff in there. Like, Kenny Atkinson's been a nice coach, but they totally fell apart in this series in a way that they shouldn't have.
Well, and compromise now because Donovan Mitchell, you hate to see this if you were rooting for the Cavs or had money on them to go all the way, which you're getting a nice price on the team that was the best in the East, bell to bell, wire to wire, wire to wire. They were the best in the East. I thought they had a legitimate chance. I figured, okay, Celtics series isn't going to be any gimme, but I thought the Cavaliers had the ammunition and the personnel to beat the Boston Celtics, who you have considered suspect even as they were getting crowned champions last year. And the professor made a very good case for that on Friday's show, as he was talking about. And you've been saying it all season. I have to give you credit. You might get my Brian Windhorst Award this year, Mike Lubie. Well, we used to channel your opinion to the audience when we were doing radio. And kind of say with a fisheye, hey, that sounds ridiculous, Lubie. You all of a sudden have straightened yourself out. You were the new Hubie Brown. You should be Lubie Brown, which we had dubbed you at one point in time, except that it was in sarcastic denigration of a lot of your opinions. But wow, you've been spot on. Suspect Boston Celtic team, but they hardly looked that part in the game over the weekend. What was that, Saturday? And they'll do it again tonight at Madison Square Garden. It was blowout city. It wasn't even close. And the Knicks, Knick fans being overly optimistic, maybe with a little bit of validation to it, since they had come back from the dead 2 times already in the series at the TD Garden. Unable to, how many times can you blow a 20-point lead? You figured it was impossible the second time. That was not happening a third time. And it never really got to the point. Did the Knicks get within, 13 or 14 at one point? People were going nuts, and they're high-fiving each other at the Garden, but the Knicks fans were anyway. But it never really looked like there was any fear if you were a Boston Celtic bettor and or fan that they were going to lose either straight up or to the point spread in that ballgame. Now, we've seen a lot of reversals of form in the NBA, Lubie. A lot of reversals of form, where a team looks really good in one game or consequently really bad and then comes back and corrects the curve immediately and stems the tide, comes back and wins in an improbable fashion. And that's been true all over the place. But, just getting back to your hockey last night, that was great. I made a note of this. The Panthers had 21 of the first 26 shots in the game.
Yeah.
But brings up an interesting thing. I mean, how hockey is officiated, and I'm not saying that the officials really caused Toronto that game, but how is it possible? Did they even have a power play, Toronto, in the first period of that game? May have gotten one late,
but they caught up in the second period.
Yeah, it was 4 power plays for the Florida Panthers. Now one, what was really an unfortunate sort of incidental thing that happens where a player shoots the puck directly into the crowd. It doesn't tick off any glass. It doesn't tick off the stick. It goes straight into the crowd. It's an automatic delay of game. This was apparent, but for that to happen after Toronto had killed 3 penalties essentially in the first period, with Wall being that Wall, and have a puck go flipping into the crowd, you thought there's no way that they survived this without giving up a goal. And that might have been one of the best passes. I'm sure you could go back and review highlights of NHL activity over the century or so they've been in existence. But was that a Trump stretch of the timeline there? How long has the NHL been around? Thick in what,
1900s.
40s, 30s? When did the NHL
Yeah,
crank up? Anyway, I mean, it's been a long period of time. So if you
yeah.
looked at the history and tried to go and dig through the archives there and come up with all the great passes that you've seen in NHL history, and it never ceases to amaze me some of the pinpoint accuracy that you get on some of these passes, some of the luck that it takes to go through three pairs of legs and three guys with sticks on the ice, and the fannies and all the other body parts that get in the way. And then not only does it hit a guy right on the stick after, and this was the Kachuk pass to Verhaeghe for the first goal, which Wall had been shutting the Panthers out no matter what kind of scoring opportunities they had. 21 out of the first 26 shots certainly is an overwhelming volume for this guy to handle by comparison to Bobrovsky. And then your one big concern, if you're a Panther fan, becomes, is Bobrovsky going to be so ice cold from not seeing any action that he gives up some, as they call it, greasy goal, and maybe some guy takes a Bobby Hull slap shot from the red line and it happens to trickle between his legs after he makes the initial stop. And next thing you know, after dominating in just in incredible fashion the first period, you find yourself in a dead heat. The Panthers have also an amazing record of 25 straight playoff games when they've been leading after two periods dating back to 2022 that they have won the game. So if they're leading after two, they ratchet up the defense and seem to, now under Paul Maurice, was Maurice there in 2022? Yeah, he had to be. But he's been there at least 3 years. Paul Maurice,
that was his first year.
His first year.
Yeah, that was the year they went to the cup.
So whatever he's drawing up in the dressing room, as they call it, between periods 2 and 3 when the Panthers are leading, it's working. I mean, his grease board has to be just full with gold stars from coming up with the right strategy. But that pass from Kachuk to Verhaeghe for the first goal was incredible, Lubie. Zips it across the ice. He's on the boards on the left side of the rink, and Verhaeghe's in front of the goal on the right side. It gets through. It looked like Magic Johnson threading the needle. It was incredible. So 2-2 in that series. Momentum, clearly then, after winning 2 games against Toronto in the hands of the Florida Panthers. But the differential, the margin of difference is so narrow, so small. I mean, an overtime 1-goal win for the Panthers, a 2-0 game that was 1-0 until late in the third period. And as you said, a barrage of shots going against Wall. You were wondering when he could have given up 6 goals in that game and still have played well. Which was kind of interesting. Yes. But what constitutes the 4 power plays for the Panthers in the first period? I thought really was the difference, as it turned out, when they got the oddly enough on the least questionable of calls, an automatic. I mean, puck goes straight into the crowd. They did take a look at it, and it happened with 5 seconds left in the third penalty, the third power play that the Panthers had. But I mean, I'm watching guys get crushed by Panther players on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Vicious hits where and I forget the guy's name. He's been hit like more than anybody else in the series for the Maple Leafs. I mean, they are just annihilating this guy, and he gets flattened from behind, goes face down on the ice about midway through the first period. No call, Lubie, nothing. And not that the Toronto penalties weren't legitimate, but how is it possible that the Panthers were void of being guilty of even the slightest of infractions, as they were? And what concept? I mean, when do they blow the whistle? What determines it? It seems very arbitrary. And in this case, it didn't necessarily cost Toronto the entire game, but it certainly cost them that first goal when they were having to fend off Panther power plays. That's 8 minutes of power play time out of the 20 in the first period of the game. And if you were looking to build momentum on the offensive end and take away a lot of what Toronto was doing, that certainly was going to be the way to do it, as that was a nice foundation for the Panthers to continue and persist in just being on the attack all throughout the game. But very exciting stuff there. That was great. And so is it tomorrow that they'll go back to play in Toronto? Are they going every other night here? It seems like it.
They've been doing it.
No, it's Wednesday. Wednesday's the night.
They're traveling. I mean, Toronto's a decent trip, so they're not playing again until
Wednesday night. All right, so that'll be great. And would you say what? Pivotal game 5, Lubie? Is it fair to call it pivotal?
Now we're at pivotal. Yes, now we're at pivotal. Even though, I don't know, it feels like the Panthers have the momentum. The way Wall's playing as a backup is impressive.
Can he do that again, this guy?
I know they should have put up 4. Like it was literally. You just said it was like 20.
Should have been like 3-4 nothing early in the game.
30 to 8 shots, and I'm like, they should have 3 goals. I'm like, Bob, 100% would have given up 3 goals on that amount of shots.
But he made a couple of spectacular
yeah.
saves. As few shots as Toronto had, a couple of them late in the game, not even late, but in the second and third period, they sort of had 2-on-1s, odd man rushes, breakaways, not clean breakaways, but clean enough that you had just a vicious shot, coming out of it by Toronto, and he was up to the task. You had to give it to him.
Yes.
That's his 5th playoff career shutout, Bobrovsky, and had he been playing in the fashion that he was in the first 2 games in Toronto, I think we'd be seeing Toronto leaving town here up 3-1, but that didn't happen.
Yep.
So the other series tonight, you have Washington and Carolina, the series nobody cares about. Did they even televise those games? What's going on there?
Yes.
They've been on TV? Yeah. Why is it that nobody gives a flying one about Washington and Carolina? Is it those markets are just dull? I mean, you got Ovechkin, had a sensational season, surpassing Gretzky. You got that guy Wilson. He's a fight waiting to break out. He's better than any Canelo fight. Just watching this guy skate around, you never know what he's going to do. Carolina has been with Brind'Amour there. I always wonder how he got that one fleck of white. Schroeder had that, the basketball player with Indiana. He had that. He doesn't have it anymore. But he had like a kind of a gold little spot there. Now, is that legit on Brind'Amour, the coach of the Carolina?
Brind'Amour, yeah. Schroeder or someone else that had it.
Just done that by design. Some barber made a mistake, no?
Oh, it could be a birthmark too. Rasheed Wallace always had it. I think that's a birthmark in your head. Brind'Amour, I don't know. It's aging interestingly.
But he's had that since he was playing.
No, I know.
You know right away. There's Brind'Amour.
Yeah, he's had it since
he was a very serious coach, and he's got his team in a position up 2-1 over the Washington Capitals. So, which cliche do you want to use on that one? If you're Washington, must win or pivotal?
Oh, for Washington, yeah, it's definitely. I would say must win. You don't want to get down
3-1 is a very difficult position, Lubie. It's like you just wrote a check for $100 and you only have 99 in the bank.
Exactly.
Nothing in your pocket. So that series continues tonight, as does Vegas and Edmonton. Vegas bouncing back after getting smoked by Edmonton a couple of times, and Edmonton had won 6 in a row. And that series out west between Edmonton and Las Vegas, I thought the Golden Knights, I've been picking them like every game, so I'm 1-2 so far in the series. But can they win a second game in a row?
They put the other game out of their arse.
Crowds are great, by the way. Crowds at these hockey games, and the people dressed in various outfits. A whole section is dressed a certain way, and then another section is dressed another way.
Yep.
I mean, you have to be loving what's going on there. Just absolutely wild. Gary Bettman might be the most boring commissioner in the history of commissioners, and for some reason universally despised. Is Gary Bettman cheered in any city? I know it's kind of become cliche to boo Roger Goodell at the draft when he comes out there. I mean, and he loves it. He starts to egg the crowd on, and give him the thing. I can't hear you.
Yeah, he's gotten into it. Yep.
He loves it, yeah, and it's obligatory if you're attending the draft. And I don't understand it for the life of me, Lubie. I mean, did you ever do this? I know the professor did, and he took a whole crew with him. You weren't part of that, were you? When they went to the draft?
No, I've never done a draft.
Why would you?
I don't know. Ken was visiting a buddy, so he went to both the Derby and the NFL draft. It's really long. It's a lot of
a massive crowd. I mean, it's Woodstock without the music, Lubie.
Yeah, it's a lot of not action. Like
nothing
standing there. Wait for and then you're not even watching like the guys
They're
talk.
choosing up sides.
So you're like,
I got Lou. No, I got Fred. No,
I don't judge people who have done it. It's fine. It's an excuse to drink in the day. Good for you. But I don't see myself doing it. And we've done a lot of different sports things. If I was asked to cover it, I would, but I would begrudgingly be like, what do you want me to cover?
It's on my bucket list in terms of after I kicked the bucket, I would be kicking and screaming with everything I had left, which at that point is nothing, to make sure nobody dragged my body to the draft. I wouldn't even want to attend it as a dead guy. I mean, I understand going maybe to like a local draft party. That makes some sense.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
used to
yeah.
be a big thing.
Yeah, you're hanging out. Yeah, yeah, that I get. You're hanging out. It's like an in the background thing, and once in a while you check back in it. But when you're there, like, where do you do?
Is it? I mean, it amazed me that poker became a television entity and commodity.
Mhm.
Maybe okay when the pandemic was happening and there was no sporting activity going on live except
Yeah,
for really remote things like Korean baseball, Australian rules football, and that sort of stuff. Soccer of all
yeah,
things. I could have
yeah,
seen maybe
yeah.
poker making some inroads into being a televised competition. Let's call it that. It certainly isn't a sport. Bunch of fat guys sitting around a table going, yeah, yeah, can I have another cheeseburger? And you always get that one guy that looks like he's barely able to straighten up his back and he's bent over and he's getting the massage from the hot chick. And while he's eating like a bowl of matzo ball soup and a pastrami sandwich is sitting by. How is this a sport? Remember when they used to smoke when they were on? Well, you were too young to remember
Yeah,
that during PBA events.
they'd have cigars and they'd
Pro
have
Bowler
cigs.
Store,
Yeah,
though,
for sure.
guys used to. There was a guy I loved named Ernie Schlegel. He used to be like the one guy that had. Well, there were a couple of guys with some personality. Carmen Salvino was one, but and Tita Semez out in New Jersey he had a little bit of personality. He was kind of the Chichi Rodriguez of the bowling tour. But how exciting can you be? Marshall Holman was emotional. Of course, Pete Weber Jr. was very demonstrative, maybe to the point where you thought, what an obnoxious rhymes with Rick this guy is. Although, I mean, he was a hell of a bowler, and everybody loved Dick Weber out of that era. But there was a guy named Ernie Schlegel, and he used to wear leather pants while he was competing that were a replica of the American flag, which was highly uncharacteristic for these guys that were wearing, what was it? King Louis was the clothier for pro bowlers. King Louis. Everybody was wearing King Louis. Is that true of golf also? No, golf has many manufacturers. Tennis has many manufacturers involved. King Louis was the only company that was venturing into, and what was it? Limited bowling was much more popular back then also, Libby. Alleys. Are there less bowling alleys, or are people still bowling in abundance?
They've just try to make it more of
An
they like
experience.
daytime it's family, nighttime they make it a
Yeah.
party. I don't know if there's a they exist, and I think on the weekends they do okay. I don't know. Like back in the day, like weekdays would be just as busy because you would have leagues, and like my mom was in a league when she was staying at home before she went back to work, and like at nights you'd have people do. I don't know if it's the same thing it was, but they still
Yeah.
exist. Like it's a cool family thing.
I was in the Police Boys Club when I lived on Long Island, and we had a bowling league. We
cool.
bowled every Saturday, and I couldn't wait. I loved it. And then later on, when I was thinking, what the hell am I going to do with my life here? I didn't really pay any attention when I was in school. I was working as a waiter, making some pretty good money out in Los Angeles. But I thought I really, no denigration to anybody that has sustained a career in hospitality, let's call it. But I really didn't want to be like an old waiter. I just didn't. I thought maybe I was destined to do something else. So I was bowling in a league, and I was doing really well. I think I had like the second highest average, but well, I mean,
Nice.
and I knew these lanes. It was La Cienega lanes on La Cienega Boulevard, and these lanes, for some reason, were just perfectly, perfectly tuned to whatever it was I was capable of doing. And then I would go to
Nice.
other bowling establishments and just bomb out. I mean, all of a sudden, that
Yeah.
beautiful hook that you had coming from an inside lane,
Yeah.
it wouldn't come back, and all of a sudden, you're taking out the 6 and the 10, and you're wondering, I can't believe I shot a 3 on a spare. This is
Oh,
not going to
Jesus.
fly. And to be a pro bowler, you had to consistently shoot over 200. I mean, what would be a typical pro bowler's average for like?
I don't know.
I mean, it has to be what in excess of
220s, 230s, I would
210.
think. Yeah, I would think 220s, 230s. You'll see them throw up a 170 or something, and you're like, what the hell happened there? But I would say it's low to mid 200s, like 220s.
You think it's that
230s.
high? I mean, the average for maybe to win a
mean-
tournament, you're averaging 220 something.
Yeah, look, but that's the thing is like I think what they do in the tournament's even lower than what they normally do. So, I mean, these guys are usually all strikes. You don't get a lot of spares with the kind of velocity these guys bring all the time.
It's not like every spare shot is questionable.
They don't need a perfect shot. Like they usually throw it so hard that they get a lot of pin
Yeah.
action that like like a lot, not everyone gets. Yeah, I would say 210s, 220s.
I just thought of
Probably.
all the sports that you could play. And naturally, the ship had passed and sailed on being a pro
Yeah,
basketball
the other
player.
stuff.
I wasn't going to be a
Yeah.
pro baseball player. Hockey, I couldn't even skate. Football, didn't really have the physique or the strength and speed to be a professional football player. Very far from it, even though I wasn't terrible at the game. So I thought the easiest path
Yeah.
to being a pro athlete was to be a pro bowler.
Was bowling. Okay.
And so I spent a lot of time, in empty bowling alleys because I was free during the day since I was working in restaurants at night. And it was, I love the idea of, I'm one of those guys. I like the lone guy, the Clubber Lang approach, where he's in the gym by himself and all you hear is the pounding shots echoing against bloodstained walls as he's in there just driving himself to go out there and have enough in the tank to beat Rocky Balboa and make it a decisive win. But it's a loner thing. It's the loneliness of a long distance runner. And so when I was bowling, then you could hear, like, I remember every now and then you would lounce up a shot and the ball would be rolling over the holes. And it made that kaplunk, 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 all the way down. That's what I remember. And then it turned into a wild party. You're right, Lubie. Crazy music and all kinds of disco lighting. So you're saying it's popular still, but
I think so in some forms. Yeah.
All right. Maybe I'll resurrect my.
They made the bar a thing. I mean, it's fun. I love bowling.
Did you have your own shoes? That's always the measure of whether or not you.
Oh yeah, I had my own shoes, my ball, and I had the glove thing.
For a long time, I refused to buy a pair of bowling shoes. And
I
I went to a
using
wedding
their
in
shoes.
Buffalo, and they handed me a pair, and
Exactly.
that was it. Anyway, all right. So we'll see who's bowling for dollars tonight. We have a bunch of games on tap. NBA, Oklahoma City. That was a weird game, wasn't it? The under players were dancing in the streets. It was 17-8 after one quarter. Oklahoma City, this high-flying, high-wire, 150-point a game circus type of act. And Denver was up 2-1 in the series. They're getting smoked in this game. I mean, 17-8. They ended up being down at the half only by 6 points, which was amazing, 42-36. They come back and take the lead in the third quarter. They were up 73-66, and then it was all Oklahoma City from there, 92-87 the final. That series now at 2-2 and returns to Oklahoma City. So any thoughts on that? Everybody's been saying all year long, Oklahoma City, far and away the team to beat. Our good friend Dylan Rossi, who hit that $90,000 parlay last year on a $100 ticket. $100 ticket. He just missed hitting for $500,000 with a $50 ticket, adding one more team in to win the Super Bowl. And maybe I jinxed him because just before the Denver game, I was in touch with him on another matter. And I said, well, so did you do this thing again where you bet all of the champions in a parlay? That was college basketball. I guess you had the Florida Gators.
Oh, he did have the Florida Gators?
Yeah, so he was alive with Denver in a parlay. If they win the NBA championship, he's going to cash a pretty big ticket.
Okay.
So, of course, after Denver goes up 2-1 over the weekend, they come back and lose this game that it appeared they had salvaged, coming back from an abyss. They were buried in this one. And they come back and take a 7-point lead in a low-scoring game, in a game where everybody struggled to put points on the board, and Oklahoma City comes back. So, in your opinion, Mike Lubitz, is that a springboard for Oklahoma City to go ahead and win this thing in 6? Do you see it going 7? Is there any way you see Denver in the winner's circle?
I mean, I could see any possibility with this series. I think these are the two best teams in basketball. I've said that. I thought Denver the last couple of years sort of fell off their game. I mean, look, Jokic hasn't actually played well. Game 1, he was fantastic. But every other game, he's been sort of by his standards.
Somewhat terrible, even though he had 27 last night.
He puts up decent numbers because I was looking at because Barkley was slamming him. So I looked at his numbers. A lot of time people will slam Jokic, and then you look at his numbers, and
the 3-point shooting has been really, really bad by Jokic.
By his standards, his numbers are down. Okay, and then the facilitating isn't where they'll release because the Thunder play really good defense, and the Thunder have some length, so he hasn't been able to just work the way he's used to working. I think this is a 7-game series. I think the two best teams in basketball. I think the Thunder have been the best team pretty much all year, but the Nuggets have experience and have top tier talent. I mean, they go. I don't know what to do with the Brown guy because he's been their second or third best player a lot of the series. But they have 5 different guys that they can trust to like get baskets for them. And the Thunder just go 10 deep. That's the thing with the Thunder. They can go to their bench and they don't fall off a lot. The Nuggets used to have a really good bench. Now their bench sort of sucks. So that's sort of the nod to the Thunder. So the Thunder probably win the series, but I think it goes 7. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Nuggets win. Look, Jokic is still the best player on the planet. SGA may be number 2, but Jokic is number 1. And he's won a title, and he knows how to get through these series. I wouldn't put it – I don't know. I always have a weird thing with the Nuggets. Like I think if they aren't injured, they're the best team in basketball. So the Thunder are very happy that they got that win, and they needed to because you can't give the Nuggets too much. So I think it's a 7-game series, and I would lean Thunder right now. But, I mean, your guys' Nuggets bet is a nice bet. Because I think after they get through this series, whoever is in that other series, I think whoever wins this is going to annihilate that. And I think the East is sort of like the Celtics have shown they have issues. The Cavs are a total disaster. The Pacers are still young, and I don't know what to do with them. Like, I think whoever wins that series in the West is going to coast through.
Yeah, I don't see Minnesota. I mean, look, we obviously are very inclined to be dead wrong about a lot of stuff, whether in the sports prediction business, but I don't see either Minnesota. I think Minnesota eliminates Golden State in fairly easy fashion. Although the game without Steph Curry was a little bit surprising in how close it was at different junctures of the ball game, but you still had Minnesota figure out a way to prevail. I think they. I mean, it seems pretty clear being up 3-1. You would have to think they win the series. Yes. I don't see them beating either Oklahoma City or Denver. I would think they probably have a better chance against the Nuggets, actually, than they would against Oklahoma City in terms of matchups. Because Oklahoma City impressed me. This wasn't the case in this last game, but when they get their running game going, man.
Oh, yeah.
As they say, it's all downhill. But where did that phrase come from? Is that now the most sickening phrase in sports? Seriously, I mean, applying in football, it's really a stretch for me. I mean, I always thought the field was level. Don't you? Don't you hate it when you go to a court somewhere and it's not level? You go to some park.
Yeah, it sucks.
They got a crown on the tennis courts or whatever, and you're thinking, wait a minute, this court's not even level. So the idea that you could be running downhill, I understand the concept and the principle. Guys just smashing it up the middle and forcing the action and taking everybody with them, Derrick Henry style. Now, but is he really running downhill? Seems to me, if anything, he's running uphill because he got 6 guys draped on his back. Who originated that? Can we possibly have some kind of suit against ever using that phrase again in a sports telecast? And have you ever found this, Lubie, where you take exception to something that has become cliche and then you find yourself using that phrase?
Oh, yeah. That's the problem with those phrases is they're so indoctrinated in us that even when you can't stand them, you still say it.
Yes, I mean, I remember doing play-by-play of various sports where you're asking yourself, did I really just use that phrase that if somebody else had said that, I would be all over them in terms of just blistering criticism about how bad they are and how much they suck as announcers. And then you find yourself using it yourself. But the downhill thing, I don't know what the hell, where did that come from? And it's probably the most overused phrase right now in describing anything that's happening in a sporting event. Are you really running downhill when you're playing basketball, Louis? Downhill. I mean, you've heard it.
No, running on a court. It's flat.
I mean, if you're on the turf course in a 6.5 furlong sprint at Santa Anita, then you are literally going down the hill. That would be the only time it was factually accurate. These.
They don't say who created it. They said it just emerged through people in football saying it over and over again. So it became a phrase. They don't know who actually was the first person to say, that looks like he's running downhill.
What the hell is that?
I don't know.
All right. Many other things to discuss. Major League Baseball, a lot of interesting developments happening there. We were dead wrong about something. We'll tell you about that, at least so far. Golf had an exciting conclusion to, wow, what a kind of payoff. These players on the PGA Tour, if nothing else, they have the Live Tour to thank for jacking up the purses. What was the PGA? What was Tim Fincham doing with all of that money?
Oh, that's a wonderful question.
Where is it? Come on, Tim. Where is all of that money? Now, they have a new commissioner of the PGA Tour, and the purse strings have been loosened. But Sepp Straka, I believe, got $3.6 million for winning one tournament.
Jeez.
And it always strikes me naturally, there's been an evolution of all types in sports, including the escalation and the amounts of money that are being bandied about and tossed around. But I'll never forget, I was doing a couple of shows when I was working in Radio Purgatory there for a little while at WNN. And I was doing a remote every week from the Inverary Country Club here in South Florida. So as you walk from the locker room out to the restaurant, they have pictures on the wall of the previous winners of what used to be the Jackie Gleason Inverary Classic.
Yeah.
And it was up there in terms of prestige, mostly because of the allure of Gleason himself. But this was not one of those tournaments that you look at kind of like, I don't know, the Honda Classic, which is now some other car. That's played in Palm Beach. It maybe gained a notch of distinction because they finally found a little bit of a permanent home for it. But it was always the tournament that a lot of players skipped, the major players. And it became a place where many PGA Tour players accomplished their first victory. But Inverary was not in a category. It was up there in terms of prestige and television interest. Jackie Gleason's presence in the early stages of the tournament, I don't know. Was he there until the end? I don't think so. I think after a while it was just the Inverary Classic. And they have the pictures of the winners, previous champions on the wall there, and it shows the purse money they won. And it was like Trevino won $52,000 for winning the tournament. This was in the 70s, Lubie. It wasn't well, I guess it's 50 years ago now, but and that was huge money. You had Johnny Miller. He won like $70,000 one year for winning the thing kind of late in the tournament's existence. And you're saying, my God, look at this yesterday. $3.6 million for Sepp Straka, who I've been waiting to win a tournament. Did he win a couple in Hawaii, Sepp Straka? Was that his first win of the year? I don't think so. I think he was not at the beginning of the year. I might be wrong about this because I haven't been following golf as closely as I have in years past. But we're on the precipice, Lubie, and it's pool time. The PGA comes up this week.
Oh, nice.
Very controversial invite to your man, Ricky Fowler. He called, why is Ricky Fowler getting an invitation to this thing? Dustin Johnson also got an invitation, but has he not won a PGA DJ? I'm not sure. His play has been, you talk about leveling off and the weight of the money, which was a theory about your man Bobrovsky early on from a Panther Insider, where I asked him, what's the problem with Bobrovsky? And there were also other implications. I have to mention this for our good friend Jim Sarney because he loves when I drop a reference to last week's Doug McLean interview in there. But McLean kind of said the same thing or implied the same thing, that Bobrovsky might have been partying a little bit and the money might have changed the dynamic there when he got $70 million from the Panthers as a free agent to sign a few years ago. And he had that horrible first season. And actually, even what was it last year that they were talking about making a change even in the goal? And then Bobrovsky really woke up late in the season. It looked like he wasn't going to be the guy anymore.
Oh, no. I mean, Bobrovsky had issues.
Was that 2 years ago or last year that Bobrovsky?
2 years, he woke up a little. And 2 years ago, he had a great run. And then they all fell apart in the finals. And then last year, he was up and down because that's Bobrovsky. And then this year's been up and down. That's sort of his thing. 2 years ago, he was really good. Last year, he had his moments. And remember in the finals, he was horrendous in the middle three games. Like they were scoring 4 or 5 goals a game, the Oilers, and a lot of it was on stupid ass goals. Bobrovsky's always been up and down. That's why they say good Bob and bad Bob. Like that, it's not a joke. He's a weird dude because he's one of the best goalies in the world. He's won multiple Vezina trophies. He's gonna be a Hall of Famer, but he gives up some of the stupidest goals you've ever seen, and you're like, what? But then he makes some of these saves where it's like he looks like he's Barishnikov. So it's like, okay, I don't know what I never know what to do with Bobrovsky.
Look, that game on several occasions, even though the Maple Leafs took very few shots and the shot differential was significant. But he made about 3 or 4 stops in a stretch there where, how much does that change the dynamic of the game if it's 1-1?
Yeah.
or even 2-1 favor of Toronto. All right, we're going to come back with more. We'll get into some baseball, some other things that are going on, and also try and come up with some tangible predictions about what might transpire in basketball and hockey the next couple of days, as we've been speculating on here in the first 40 minutes or so of the conversation today. Speaking of conversations, tomorrow, and this is good, I just saw online confirmation that Journalism, who was posted as the 6-5 potential morning line favorite. Now, they haven't actually established these odds or the post position draw yet, but now is officially going to be in the pre.
Nice.
Which enhances what I'm hoping happens, because I still haven't received. I did get confirmation from the jockey on Journalism, Umberto Rispoli, out of California, that he was going to be in California on Tuesday, tomorrow, when we have a scheduled interview, and we should have conversations going at 12 o'clock with Umberto Rispoli. So how great is that? We've got the guy who finished second on Journalism in the Kentucky Derby, and the guy who's going to be riding the favorite in the second leg of the Triple Crown. Bleacher Brothers, you're home for Triple Crown inside information. And he happens to be a cool guy, so looking forward to that tomorrow. But I did request that he send me an email address a couple of days ago. I haven't seen it since. So I'll try and get in touch with him today. They were racing out in California, so hopefully that'll come through, and he'll be able to do the thing tomorrow. I know we'll get it done at some time, so looking very much forward to that. And so Journalism is in. Sandman is back in from the Kentucky Derby. Where was Sandman? Do we have a search warrant? Where was Sandman in the Derby? You remember? That was everybody's choice.
No, I don't know where he finished.
He had to be mid-pack or worse. No, I don't remember seeing Sandman. Do you?
They didn't talk about, once the race started, that name sort of fell by the wayside.
And speaking of which, Larry Colmus is going to join us as well, the guy who calls the races for NBC. What a brilliant job he did. I usually am in favor of the track announcer, the local track announcer, getting the chance to call the big races on national television. And most of these guys are really good. I don't know. Are there any bad track announcers out there? I'm not a big fan, and this sounds sexist and the whole idea of having a woman calling a horse race is fine with me, but there's a woman, I believe her name is Jen Paquette. Seems like a delightful young lady, but one of those things where her race calls absolutely annoy the bleep out of me. So, I mean, if they were having a televised race from there, I'd prefer somebody else. But but Colmus's call, I believe, and the track announcer at Churchill is very competent. And sounds fine, but Colmus really blew away. I mean, his call was spectacular by comparison. So he'll be joining us tomorrow as well. Just my opinion, no denigration of the guy. I do believe the guy at Churchill Downs is just fine, but his call in the Derby was not as succinct or exciting and didn't bring out the drama nearly to the extent that Larry Colmus did. So looking forward to talking to Larry tomorrow on that show, too. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:45.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-4...
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Good to have you guys with us. Appeal Yourself on Demand Monday, although it's still a gray day, and predictions are not favorable. The Mustang was visiting her mother in North Carolina Raleigh-Durham area. I went to a Raleigh-Durham minor league game, which turns out to be a hoot.
Oh,
People
nice.
really dig their minor league baseball there, and it's nice to see all the
Yeah,
grassroots
yeah.
type of stuff. Very quaint and
Yep.
enjoyable stadium experience. And they took Mustang's sister, and she took her mother to the game, and she was loving it, man.
Nice.
I mean, her mother, unfortunately, is sort of experiencing the unfortunate byproduct of old age, which, like I am, a little bit of dementia there. And, fortunately, it's not Alzheimer's at this stage, but, sort of losing it a little bit. But for some reason, does that make you enjoy ballpark food even more? She
Yeah.
loved this, like she was at some fancy restaurant or something. Love it. All of the
Really?
fanfare
That's
they had
funny.
there in Raleigh-Durham. The Raleigh-Durham
Nice.
Bulls, right, is the name of the team, and a very popular minor league entity. So that looked like a very, very enjoyable experience, which was great.
Nice.
But the word is that the storms in North Carolina are going to probably cause all flights. She was supposed to come back tomorrow. All flights to be canceled.
Oh, geez,
We're
already that in
experiencing here.
advance?
So is it all over the East Coast that this weather is going to be?
I guess. I don't know. We haven't had rain really in months. Last week it rained a couple days, and then went back to being hot and dry. And then from last night all the way today, like it's been gloomy most of the weekend, but it didn't rain at all, at least out west. And now it's rare. Like it doesn't rain like this. Like it'll rain for an hour or whatever and stop. It's been constant raining. It's not a storm, but like stronger than a drizzle since early this morning. So
My
I have
bedroom window early this morning, pelting it.
no
I
idea.
thought Ginger Baker had come back from the grave and was doing paradiddles on my head. Unbelievable. All right, baseball. Bud Black gets fired. That should come as no surprise. They lose a game 21-0 on Saturday. The Colorado Rockies. Colorado Rockies have been a bad team for a long time. Bud Black, I don't believe he's ever made the postseason, even though he's been with the Rockies a long time. Is that possible, Lubie? Bud Black fired in Colorado. Not a job that you necessarily want to take. They came back and won a game on Sunday, but at 21-0. Should there be a mercy rule in Major League Baseball? And at what point do you start bringing in the clowns on the mound, where you're throwing position players out there, and all of a sudden you're wishing that Campy Campaneris could come back from the grave and pitch a couple of innings for you? So he gets canned. That was no surprise. We were dead wrong about this, though, Louis. I remember saying this, and I was sort of mocking Met fans for their optimism because they signed Juan Soto. Remember that? And you were asking yourself, okay, Juan Soto, is he really that great? I mean, does he belong in the ultra? Yankee fans were distraught that he left the team, and he really was a huge asset and a vital cog in any success the Yankees had last year, which took them all the way to the World Series. Okay, can't deny it. He had a great season, and he's one of those guys that you have to love, because in his free agent year, instead of having the pressure weigh him down and cause him to have a subpar year, and somebody still gives him the money because Scott Boras is his agent. I mean, how many times? J.D. Drew is always the greatest example to me of a guy that you're looking at and you're going, how did this guy get paid that much money based on what he had done so far? And you're thinking, is that just because everybody believed that when he came out of Florida State, he was going to be a cinch to be a top-line major leaguer? Was he ever that, Lubie? I don't think so. You probably followed his career more closely than I did, but
he became a solid player. He shook off some of the bust stuff when he was with the Cardinals, but he was never the guy that was drafted number one. I mean, he was never like a star.
Does anybody, when you say, hey, who were some of the most feared hitters of all time?
No.
Have J.D. Drew in their top 100?
Oh, that's a good question. No.
He's kind of like, a subpar Bryce Harper when we thought that Bryce Harper was the most overrated player in baseball, which, of course, he won the MVP the most. The more we talked about it, the closer he came to that great.
He got better. Winning multiple MVPs. They were very different players.
All right, so we did wrong about this. The Mets signed Juan Soto. That was the big story. That was the thing, the chip that had to fall first for anything to transpire in free agency last year. Yes. And it was a big deal, all right? And speaking of big, it was the biggest money deal in Major League Baseball history. Shohei Ohtani looked like a peasant. He looked like he was something that would be featured in the beginning of a Dickens novel compared to Juan Soto, who you would have to think and he's supposedly getting near to the point where he's going to be pitching again, which was that not predicted that he'd be on the mound in June, Shohei Ohtani coming off the Tommy John?
Yeah, he's supposed to pitch this year.
believe,
Yeah, that's about
I
right.
believe that was a timeline, and it looks like it's probably going to transpire in that fashion. We don't know what level of effectiveness he will have. Is he going to be John Smoltz, come back and be even more effective than he was before the TJ surgery? Or is he going to be one of those guys that perennially struggles and never is quite the same? It tends to go both ways. So we'll see what happens. Naturally, you're rooting for Ohtani because it's such a remarkable thing to have a modern day Babe Ruth coming out of Japan and being one of those Japanese players that was highly touted that actually not only lived up to expectations, but exceeded them, you would have to think. Right? I mean, holy Hideki Irabu, what are we talking about? There have been a lot of mistakes made on these Japanese players.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of mistakes. And there's been success. Would you say Hideki Matsui exceeded anybody's anticipation of what he was going to do?
I don't know. Look, I don't know if he was a guy deserving of his nickname. Like wasn't he Godzilla? But he became a perennial borderline / all-star player. I mean, and they won a lot. Those Yankees. He was on the Yankee team that won a lot, so he was definitely a key cog. I don't know if he was a guy that he wasn't Ichiro, like he wasn't a surefire Hall of Famer, but
course, great. Who was the guy that the Red Sox had?
Dice K. He wasn't Dice K. Like Dice K was fun and interesting, but Dice K ended up like he wasn't.
Eventually, what was that? What was his pitch called? Eventually, it just became the matzo ball. I mean, whatever.
That's the problem. Dice K was interesting. He put a lot of innings.
What was the name of his pitch? I'm blanking on it.
I don't know. I know what you're talking about. He had
like a salami ball or something. I don't know what it was. It was.
It wasn't
but
that
it became
here.
a meatball after a while. Looked like something you would get at Cafe Monterano. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Stevie, can you make them any bigger? And can you charge any more for a meatball and not be charged with a crime? What are you talking about?
Exactly.
So, a lot of things happening there. Clayton Holmes, though, is. I was very disparaging about the notion that the Mets are going to be a top-notch team, even with Juan Soto, because I thought their pitching was suspect.
Yeah, I mean, everyone said that was a big
issue. I mean, if Clayton Holmes was going to be their opening day starter, a guy who was getting rocked in relief, and I mean, look, if the Yankees were going to fall off the cliff last year, it was going to be because Clayton Holmes was their closer. Aaron Boone, his contract was sitting just above the shredder almost on a daily basis. As Hank Steinbrenner was saying, I don't know, Aaron, you're going to keep bringing this clown in? Was that Aaron Boone's decision to keep him as the closer, even though he was getting torched every time he came in? They're a human arson squad. All right, so they moved him back to being a setup man, and he had more success. I don't know. What would you say? Is it just the pressure of being in the closing position that far overcomes anything that you're feeling when you come in the eighth inning to try and preserve a lead, or sustain what is a tie game, or keep your team 1 or 2 runs behind? The dynamic is quite different, but and some people aren't suited for that type of thing. But Clayton Holmes, to me, for my money, appeared to be the last guy that was going to be an effective number 1 starter for the New York Mets, in spite of Juan Soto's presence. And it's made me look like a clown, Lubie, so far. Not that that's uncommon.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Mets are killing it.
He's averaging over 5 innings per start for a guy who was pitching 1 inning, essentially, for the last several years. 2.74 earned run average. The Mets are 26-15. Phillies are closing on him, and Clayton Holmes pitching to a 5-1 record so far this year.
Yep.
So, do I go by the tag dead wrong Defo? I mean, is it time to go ahead and
let's see. I mean, Soto's numbers aren't. I mean, when it comes to Soto, you haven't been that wrong. His numbers are sort of average. I mean, he's hitting 250, and I get the sort of average. He has like 8 homers and 19. I mean, his numbers
he has 9 home runs now. Had a couple of multiple home run games, I think, recently. He's coming around. I mean, look, it's not uncommon for a guy to slump transitioning to a new team. He has been in the National League with the Padres, so it's not like he's never seen National League pitching before, or this would be such a foreign concept that he would have to face these guys that he has no familiarity with. But pedestrian start at best. Today, what? I mean, can you be critical of a guy that hits for good power stats, but only averages 250, 240?
I mean, they don't care about average, but I do. Look, Judge is finding a way to have a spectacular average and hit for power and bring in
Can
runs.
he sustain that? It seems impossible, doesn't it?
No, he won't. I mean, he always gets hurt. He's gonna.
I don't mean hurt. I mean,
sets
even
him
if he's
back.
healthy perfectly, he's never felt better in his life. He's taken, all of these supplements that are advertised on TV, just gargling with them 100 at a time. Feels great. No steroids, no nothing, no juice. Obviously, his vision is as impeccable as it's ever been because the guy's hitting like 407 or something like that. A month and change into the season with monster power numbers, exceeding anybody that there's nobody really even close to him, is there? In terms of
Paul Goldschmidt's on his own team is like 50, 60 points behind. Jesus.
And Goldschmidt, look, he was probably at the stage where I don't know if you'd say he was a shot fighter, but
I forgot he was still playing.
Yeah, exactly. When he was signed by the Yankees, you thought, that's really, you talk about stopgap measures. That seemed to be one of them. But sometimes veterans, when they don't have this kind of pressure to be the man, they rise to the occasion and become functional role players on teams, which you would have to say, I guess, Goldschmidt has been so far for New York. So, and by the way, Anthony Rizzo is back. Did he sign with the Cardinals, Anthony Rizzo? Is that where he is?
Maybe.
He appeared to be a shot fighter by any standard, any measuring barometer that you would use, and he's back in the bigs. Cardinals, by the way, on a roll, 8 in a row. Minnesota has won 8 in a row. These are Major League Baseball developments, Louis, late in the show. In Miami, which people, how encouraged were these Marlin fans saying, yeah, you've been trashing this team. I tell you, this Bendix, he's on to something.
Yeah, there's a reason.
They're 15 and 24 now. Were they 12 and 12 at one point?
Yes, they're around 500 for the first month or so, and then reality hits. They're horrendous.
Projects out. I was doing some of the math here, and I don't know if people can see this. You couldn't make it out, but I actually still do long division in written fashion. Okay. What's wrong with me? I mean, it's not like this is calculus here. I was trying to do the projection here, and so I divided the 39 games that they've played into 162. I came up with 4.2 something, which you then have to multiply by the 15 games that they have won to project out the number of wins they would have on a season. By my calculations, that worked out to 63 wins, Libby.
Yeah, and they'll be right on the thing. They'll probably get over it because the number was so stupid. But they will have proven nothing. But we were right. Like they're a joke, and they're going to be a joke. They don't have anything.
Lowest payroll in baseball, I believe, by quite a margin. 52,990,000 thousand. And I don't think anybody else has a payroll under 70. And that's very few teams because if you look at the teams that are bottom dwellers, there are 2 teams worse than the Marlins so far this year in baseball. The aforementioned Colorado Rockies at 7 and 33. And the Pittsburgh Pirates have been abysmal, and their manager was very much on the chopping block there. I don't know if they went ahead. I don't even recall if I saw a story. Did they fire that guy? I think he's still around. Oh, no, they fired him like last week. They fired the manager, and that's a shit. I mean, think about that. You talk about being subjected to the slings and arrows of outrageous misfortune, my friend, where you're the fall guy. First, I mean, we've seen one hitting coach fired so far this year. That was the Texas Rangers, who were off to a poor start. And I think they've bounced back a little bit and aren't far out of contention. I have to look at the standings there and refresh myself on that one. I didn't really recall seeing them in the standings, so maybe that's a bad sign to say they're doing well. But they had fired their hitting coach earlier this year, my favorite move. But to be a manager of a team that is just not even trying, like Pittsburgh, Colorado's been bad for a long time. Shouldn't they have a huge and very distinct home field advantage there playing at Coors Field?
Oh, they used to.
Is it still Coors Field, or did Coors drop out because they were so bad?
It's Coors something. It's something at Coors Field.
Remember that? I remember when Mike Hampton went to the Colorado Rockies, and the theory was that because of the rarefied air, the mile-high city, breaking balls would not break as much, and that's why there were so many runs being scored, that your stuff just wasn't working as well. Now, it would help if you were playing golf, but it didn't necessarily help you if you were on the mound and you're trying to throw some kind of finesse pitch. And I remember Mike Hampton, who had come from the Mets as a free agent to Colorado and signed a giant contract at that time, couldn't get anybody out in Colorado. So you would think it would be a big advantage. I mean, you'd be able to build a team that suited the home ballpark, win the majority of your games. If you could somehow win 55 or 60 of your home games, you don't have to do that much on the road to be a playoff contender. and they're not doing it. But yeah, Colorado and Pittsburgh, the two teams that are worse than the Marlins in terms of record. And both of those teams are spending more money than the Marlins, who are a public embarrassment. When does that change? Where, I mean, what are you telling your fans? That you really don't give a flying one, or that you're going to build this up over how long of a period of time is it going to take to build this up? And when you do, you know what's going to happen again, Lubie. Olay, right? They go Amazing Kreskin and pull the tablecloth out from underneath, and all the dishes and all the silverware remains in the same spot. 63 and 99.
Exactly.
That's what I have. Time flew by today, Lubie. I hope you had a good time, and I hope you people out there did as well, as we deal with the grim weather here and along the East Coast. Do you root for, I mean, see, you would be rooting for the wife to come back. Do you root for the plane to be delayed?
No.
No?
No. I mean, it's going to be delayed.
Rooting
The weather
for her
here
safe
is rough.
return. Her safe return.
Let her be safe, and whatever it is.
All right, kiddo. We're going to get out of here. Tomorrow, as I said, hopefully this will work out. We'll have Umberto Rispoli on Conversations here on Bleacher Brothers. Nice. And that will get underway at 12 o'clock and then be posted there into perpetuity. So, congratulations to AJ Johnson. They sent me some numerology on what's going on the website. And our time is coming, Lubie, if it hasn't come already. So that's looking good. Nice. All right, we'll see you guys next time. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. See you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It is 9:04.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.